All right, here comes the good news, folks, or maybe not. Serious new warnings today about your retirement. An eye-opening study says that some folks may have to work well into their 80s if they want to provide for any kind of golden years. I guess that comes after that. Lou Dobbs joins me now, host of Lou Dobbs Tonight, who's way far away from retirement. Lou, this is a frightening scenario.
Well, far from retirement, if not retirement age.
Right? Never.
The truth is that this projection of 80 for people to retire is really very much a troubling report, because there's so much truth behind the fact so few people have enough money to retire. But also buried in these numbers is another consideration. And that is that people 55 and older in this recession and this weak recovery that we're going through, a jobless recovery, folks 55 and older who are desperately looking for jobs are the people who are finding it most difficult. Right. So we have on one hand, people are going to be working much into, perhaps their 80s. At the same time, how in the world are they going to find a job?
A job to do that, exactly. Now let's pull up, we have a couple of full screens that we built that show people the numbers that back up what we're saying here. And when you take a look at them, if you are in the lower income area, of course, everything is tougher, and retirement is part of that picture as well. $11,700 or less, you have a 50% chance of being able to retire at 84. And you watch those numbers go up, they get lower as you make more income, 72.5 and above. And I would point out that this only gives you a 50-50 chance that you can comfortably retire at the age of 65. And as you point out, the jobs picture is so grim that it's tough to imagine how people are going to find work to continue. Is this because nobody's saved enough? Or, what dynamic is it that has created this?
The baby boomers have been a highly irresponsible generation, absolutely failing to save, to provide for their children in many ways as previous generations had. And now, just about 55% of all members of the baby boomer generation are saying, our children will never have lives as good as ours. Well, in part, that's because my generation chose to live well beyond its means, to forego savings, and to live, frankly, whether we're talking about fiscal policy in Washington, D.C. or their own household finances, to live effectively irresponsibly.
It's a scary thing. My son just said to me in the car just the other day, what's retirement? And I said, well, it's when you live off of the money that you've saved and invested all throughout your working life, and you have to really work on that so that it's enough. He said, oh, gee, what a novel idea. But how do those people who have not saved enough, what can they do now, if anything,
well,
though?
Entitlement programs are part of the fallback. But the main recourse here is to restore prosperity to this economy, and this generation of Americans in particular, but each successive generation is responsible for the kind of political leadership we have. The people who say, well, it doesn't matter who you put in the White House, ask them that right now about how they feel about a vote either for John McCain or for Barack Obama. How do they feel about who they elected to Congress? Or some will say, who's my congressman? Those failures to make important, careful choices in leadership reflect on whether or not they'll be working till they're in their 80s, or whether or not prosperity will be restored, and we will start once again generating incomes and jobs and wealth in this country. Because one thing is clear right now to millions of Americans, whether they're facing retirement or about to, this economy will not sustain any of us, and we've got to do a lot better. And our leadership has really got to awaken.
You got a personal responsibility and increased savings combined with a better plan for the future in terms of, how we're going to hold on to Medicare. You talk about, that you can count on entitlements for some portion of it. We hope so, right?
Some portion of that entitlement, because let's be very candid, the entitlements that we now have will not survive intact.